What's going on, guys? Welcome to another episode. In front of me here is the ENGWE M20 e-bike. I've had this e-bike probably for about a month now, and I've put about close to 230 miles on it. And I absolutely love this e-bike. As an FYI, when ENGWE sends these to me, I get to keep them, but they don't pay me anything, and we don't have a script where I'm talking about certain things and making it sound better than it actually is. So this review, just like all my other reviews, is an unbiased opinion of what I think of this ENGWE e-bike. Since I've had this e-bike for about a month now, I find all sorts of excuses just to ride the bike. As I mentioned in my previous videos, I do have a car, but most of the time I'm going for this e-bike because it's a lot of fun to ride. I've taken it on very short commutes, which is anywhere between a 1 to 3 mile ride, and I've taken it on very, very long commutes, anywhere between 40 and 50 miles. And each time I've ridden it, I haven't felt tired, I haven't felt exhausted as you would ride a normal bike. The pedal assist mode can be changed from 1 to 5, and it's done through this little LCD panel, which we're going to get into next. As far as the gears are concerned, it comes with a Shimano shifter. Now, if you're familiar with Shimano is a company that's made in Japan, and if you're familiar with ENGWE as a company, they're a Chinese brand company. So I'm really curious to find out if this is a knockoff Shimano or is it an authentic one. Do they have a partnership with the Japanese company Shimano, or all these knockoffs? Regardless, it works exactly like a Shimano derailleur would work. Shimano derailleur slash shifter. It has 7 different speeds. Sometimes the gears are a little bit wonky. You have to pedal for a little while, and then other times it just doesn't want to go into third. Same thing with some of the other gears, but it's not all the time. It's just once in a while that happens, and it may need to be adjusted. Besides that, one of my favorite features of this bike are the 2 LED headlights. These are exceptionally bright. You have absolutely no problem seeing where you're going with these things because they're very, very bright and they work very, very well. It also has daytime LEDs, which are pretty cool. And then, of course, you get a tail light in the back. But as you can see, when I'm using the brakes, it does come on, and it's very, very bright, even in the daytime. Unfortunately, the disc brakes on this are not hydraulic. Sometimes the disc brakes fade depending on how fast you're going, but I wish it was hydraulic. It would have been much better, especially for a bike like this. But it's a small niggle, and if you wanted to, you can go to AliExpress and get yourself a hydraulic brake kit for about 40 bucks and replace them. And last but not least, they do squeak. Every one of them that I've tested out or I've ridden in the past before have brakes that squeak. It's something that you have to live with, I guess. And now moving on to the power of this e-bike. As you can see here, I have the dual battery version, but for the lower price point, you're going to get a single battery, which is down below. These batteries are 13 amp hour batteries, so together you got 26 amp hours of battery life. In one trip, I believe I did about 60 miles, and by the time I got home, I had about maybe 60% of battery life left on the top one. If you may be wondering, you don't have to have both these batteries on for the bike to work. You can have either or you can power both of them on at the same time. And it has the nifty little computer inside here that both these batteries connect to that draw power out of the one that has the least amount of power. So when that battery's dead, it'll go to the next battery. So now moving on to the suspension. I love the look of the suspension setup in the front because it looks kind of like a motorcycle. You got the triple tree clamp over here. The left side is pretty much static, but the right side is for compression, and you can adjust that or you can lock it up completely. I have mine pretty open right now, so it's giving me the most compression. As far as the rear shock is concerned, I don't know if you can see it from the camera. Maybe I'll just take a separate video of it, but the compression on the rear works, but it's not exactly perfect. I've seen other people who have changed out the rear shock and they have better performance. It's probably like a $40 upgrade, and I might do it in the future, but as of right now, I don't feel like I need to do it. As far as the tires are concerned, they come with knobby tires, because although this bike looks kind of like a mountain bike, it's really not a great mountain bike. It's got plenty of torque for the street, but if you're in rough terrain and you're going up an incline, I don't think it has that much power to get you out of that rough incline, especially if your battery is not topped off all the way. As far as the LCD is concerned, just like the ENGWE L20, it's pretty legible. Unfortunately, the battery indicator is not all that accurate because right now it's telling me that I have 2 bars left, but if you take a look at the actual battery, the battery level is 4 bars on the actual battery itself. It just doesn't know how to compute how much power is left on the actual battery. But otherwise, I like the fact that you can change a lot of the settings within the LCD screen, and it has a trip indicator as well as a full odometer. So as you can see, on my odometer, I currently have 232.3 miles. So I've really put it through the ringer, and I've taken it on some really long and short commutes. And as I mentioned before, guys, I find myself riding this e-bike a lot, and I really enjoy riding it, and it gets a lot of compliments. So with that being said, I think now we're ready to take this bike on the road and talk a little bit more about some of its features and how it actually handles and rides on the road. All right, guys, so for this test ride, I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn off the top battery, which is about 70% left, and turn on the bottom battery that has 100% battery life left. So this way I give you an accurate impression of what this bike will be like once it's fully topped off. And right now it's on pedal assist number 5. Let's go. As far as the seat is concerned, I have absolutely no problems with it, but I have watched reviews on YouTube where people do complain about it. Some people say that the seat is pointing downwards. Other people are saying that it's not really that soft on your bum. But honestly, guys, to me, it's perfectly fine because I've done about 40-50 miles on this bike at a time. And I haven't really felt tired, or I haven't really felt like I needed a break because my bum was hurting. They're dubbing this bike as something that you can ride off-road. But quite honestly, guys, I think this bike is more of a city bike, designed to make it look like you can ride it off-road, but it's not really a perfect off-road bike. It only has a 750-watt motor. The motor is great, but I think it lacks power for off-road situations where there's an incline and the terrain is not all that smooth or great for you to be riding on. The front suspension does a really good job of dampening the road, better than if it didn't have suspension. But the rear suspension, as I mentioned earlier, is lacking a little bit. It's a one-size-fits-all approach. It's not adjustable. And I think in the future, I will be replacing it with a better components. Maybe in the front, maybe in the rear, or maybe both. But as far as the speed is concerned, it is not a slow bike by any means. I think ENGWE says that this bike will do about 28 miles an hour, but it'll do a comfortable 25 miles an hour. I think 28 miles an hour is asking a little bit more than this bike will be able to output, but it'll do a comfortable 24, 25 miles an hour. And as you can see, we're going up an incline right now. We're doing a comfortable 19 miles an hour. Pedal assist number 5. And speaking of pedal assist, most of the time, I'm not using the bike in pedal assist mode. I'm just riding the bike with pure power mode. Riding the bike in pure power mode with hills will comfortably give me about 30 miles per single battery. So if you're using both batteries, it'll do a comfortable 60 miles for your entire trip. Here's a start of the hill climb test that I usually do in all my videos. E-bikes like the L20 that I recently reviewed, as well as the DYU e-bike that I recently reviewed with its 750 watt hub motor, will typically do about 10 to 14 miles an hour while I'm pedaling. If I'm doing pure power mode, even with a full battery like the one I have right now, we're going to find out what it's about to do because this hill is extremely high. So it's doing about 11 miles an hour. Just using pure power mode of not pedaling or anything like that, it dropped down to 10 miles an hour. Like I mentioned in my past videos, this hill is the most steepest hill in all of San Diego. So it is struggling at 8-9 miles an hour. It's similar to the other e-bike that I tested out earlier, the ENGWE L20. It's got the same power output, and I'm sure it's got the same electronics as well. But that being said, on regular normal hills, it'll do a comfortable 20 miles an hour. So along with my pedaling and with the power, it's doing 11 miles an hour up this hill, which is not that bad, but it could be better. As an example, if you're using this bike as a round-trip vehicle to go to work and back, and you have to negotiate these type of hills all the time, if your area is very, very hilly, and round trip is about 10 miles, you're going to be able to handle it. But if you got a 25-mile trip and you got a single battery, it's going to be very difficult for you to do those kind of things. So prepare to have a second battery if you're going to be traveling that long and you have hills like that. But for most people, those kind of hills are pretty rare. I live in San Diego, so it's very hilly. All right, so let's now talk about some of the things I don't like about this bike, because there are a couple. First and foremost, whenever you're hitting a bump, you hear the suspension make a little bit of sound along with the mudguard. It makes a clanking sound and it's a little bit annoying. It's not a perfect bike and I don't expect it to be, but it's a small little niggle and I thought I'd put that out there. The other thing I don't like is that this doesn't have a torque sensor, it has a regular cadence sensor. So if you're pedaling and you're not pedaling a whole lot, the power will not kick on. It all depends on how hard and how fast you're pedaling for the power to kick in and help you out. Besides that, I mentioned before that these are just regular brakes. And I wish that this had hydraulic brakes. It would be a lot better, because here in San Diego we have a lot of hills, and when I'm going down hills I feel like the brakes are fading. And as a result of the fading brakes, it makes it a little bit dangerous, but in conjunction with the front and the rear brakes, it does slow me down. But I think I will change it out to hydraulic brakes, as some other people have done on the web. I just took that little bump. I don't know if you heard that little clanking sound from the front suspension. That's exactly what I was talking about. Now, I don't know if you heard that. The honk on this thing is absolutely a beast. The honk is at the rear underneath your seat. I wish that the honk was in the front, because then it would be a lot louder. Doing 26, 27 miles an hour going down a slight hill. It's not slow by any means. And now we're going up a small little incline, doing 25 miles an hour really comfortably. And 25 miles an hour honestly feels faster than 25. That honk comes in really handy.
2 hours later.
As I mentioned in the beginning of this video, this bike is absolutely awesome. I find excuses just to ride this thing all the time. I haven't ridden a bike or a scooter, for that matter, in this short amount of time, doing 230, 240 miles. And if you're in the market for an awesome bike that performs pretty adequate, it's not exactly a perfect bike, because if it was perfect, it would have had hydraulic brakes, it would have had better suspension, and it would have had like a torque sensor and a whole bunch of other stuff. But then, you know, the price would be really expensive. And I think they wanted to put an entry-level bike that not only looks cool, but performs perfect for someone who just wants to take it on the city, doing long commutes back and forth with the 26 amp hour batteries, or if you're using it simply for pleasure use. I think one battery is just enough for you, because it'll do 40 to 50 miles on a single battery, depending on, of course, how fast you're going. But overall, I think it's a fantastic bike. I think it looks absolutely incredible. It's similar to bikes like the Super 73 that cost, I think, 3 or 4 times more than this. So it's got that Super 73 style. And if I had to buy this bike, because I didn't, ENGWE sent this to me, it's free. They haven't paid me to make this video, but if I had to pay out of my own pocket, I think I will, because it's an awesome bike. And if you guys are interested in purchasing this, I make a small little commission from the link down below. And if you have any questions, leave a comment down below, and I'll see you guys on the next episode. Peace. Thanks for watching.